This is the advisor.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes.
My name is Collins.
Okay.
My minister will delay us 2 minutes.
Okay.
He's in
Should we wait or?
We don't have time to wait. We could
No, until we make a speech. If he arrives, we'll give him.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'll continue. But whenever he comes,
yeah.
we are going to give him the floor.
Okay.
Good evening and welcome everyone. The Honorable Cabinet Secretary of Kenya is going to join us after a few minutes, but I think for the interest of time, we have to start our session. I would now like to invite Madam Ms. Mary Lore Akin Olugbade, Vice President, Regional Development Integration and Business Delivery of African Development Bank, who is also co-chair of this event. She is going to make a statement on behalf of all development partners. Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Honorable Ahmed Shide, Minister of Finance of Ethiopia and Chair of the Horn of Africa Initiative. Honorable Professor Njuguna Ndugu, Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury of Kenya, our very gracious host for the annual meeting and for this ministerial meeting today. Honorable Ministers of the Horn of Africa Initiative countries, His Excellency Dr. Wokne Gebeyewu, IGAD Executive Secretary. I understand that we are expecting also Dr. Sidi Utta, President of the, he's here? Oh, sorry. Please, Your Excellency Dr. Sidi Utta, President of the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa, who is attending this ministerial meeting as a special guest observer. African Development Bank Executive Directors, colleagues from the World Bank, from the EU, from the FCDO UK, and observers present here today, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. On behalf of the African Development Bank Group and all the partners in the Horn of Africa Initiative, and I would like to recognize the World Bank, the European Union, BMZ, and FCDO, I would like to cordially welcome you to this 21st ministerial meeting of the Horn of Africa Initiative. This ministerial meeting is becoming a fixture of our annual meeting, and this started last year in Sharm el-Sheikh. And I'm particularly delighted that we are able to come together again this year in Kenya, one of the countries in the Horn, to continue discussion on the development challenges and opportunities in the region and how we can collaborate in addressing them. I would like to warmly welcome and thank my co-chair, Minister Ahmed Shide. Minister, we really appreciate your very able and insightful leadership of this important initiative. I would like to welcome you also, the Executive Secretary of IGAD, Your Excellency Wokne Gebeyewu, who has been a very strong staunch proponent and advocate of regional dialogue and cooperation in the Horn. You are welcome. And I would also like to warmly welcome all the ministers who are joining us today, and of course the director representing Eritrea. Let me welcome all the development partners and for your ongoing support to the initiative and for all the efforts that we put to come up with solutions that help facilitate regional integration, increase connectivity and stability in the Horn. And finally, I would like to welcome our observers today, Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa, BADEA. I'd like to also acknowledge the Islamic Development Bank, the Netherlands, Japan, and others who are present here virtually. And if I forgot anyone, please, I'm asking the team to let me know. We really appreciate your interest in the initiative, and we really hope to see the observers eventually joining and participating as full members in the near future. Friend, this is a particularly special ministerial meeting today and a milestone because we get to take stock of the performance of the portfolio as our main discussion as requested by the ministers in the previous ministerial meeting. As you would recall, we launched the Horn of Africa initiative 5 years ago in 2019, and at the time we had just 3 development partners. It was the African Development Bank, the World Bank, and the European Union. And today it has grown to 5 development partners as we have welcomed BMZ Germany and FCDO UK. And the portfolio has grown to about $10 billion in total commitment, and this is across the 4 pillars of the Horn of Africa initiative. We are very proud of many achievements in developing infrastructure, improving regional connectivity, and we believe that there have been also some notable highlights, such as really our collective emergency response to improve food security and address the locust crisis. As development partners, we have to continue to learn lessons about how we can better design, prepare, and execute operations in the region, because the region has unique challenges, both at the regional, at the national, and at the sub-national levels. And we know that our governments, regional partners like IGAD, are critical to ensuring the success of this operation within the Horn of Africa, because they have the project implementing unit. Honorable Ministers, you implement these projects, and the project life cycle takes place within the ecosystem and at times the workings of our respective government partners. We would like therefore to listen with keen interest to the presentation that has been prepared by the technical teams of all the partners, and also listen to the recommendation for the attentions of the countries and the financiers alike. Our meeting takes place against the background of the ongoing discussion on reform of the multilateral development banks and how the banks are also able to do their part to become better. Oh, I would like to acknowledge the arrival of Right Honorable Andrew Mitchell, Minister of State in the Foreign Commonwealth and retired Honorable. UK is attending this ministerial meeting who is attending as a special guest. And Right Honorable Mitchell, you are very much welcome to this meeting, and we really look forward to your address. I will quickly try to wrap up, since I think the agenda is, we have a large agenda today. And I was just saying that really these discussions today are taking place against the background of the ongoing discussion of the multilateral development banks, and how the banks are also aiming to do their part to become not only bigger, but better and more efficient. And we will need to continue to work better together. And to this end, I would like to inform you that we've just, the World Bank and the African Development Bank are about to sign an MOU exactly to address a better coordination together, and of course, even more especially with respect to the Horn of Africa initiative. As we listen to the presentation today and we discuss the findings and the recommendation of the Regional Portfolio Performance Review, I would like us to all think of where we can work in our respective areas to improve the portfolio performance and efficiency, in addition to reducing bottlenecks. And I think that in turn, as development partners, we also must continually look at how we can better streamline and enhance efficiency in our operation. And because what we do is more complementarity and collaboration among ourselves. I would like to finish by mentioning the second discussion that we will have today, which will focus on the implementation of the Borderlands Roadmap, which was adopted at the 18th Ministerial Meeting in Addis Ababa in October 2023. And our discussion today and the presentation that we will have will shed more light on the implementation of this roadmap and also the alignment of the various partners, their projects with this roadmap. And we think that to further advance the development of the borderlands regions, we must mobilize more investment in these regions. We must build on existing commitment by the partner. And we take note of the FCDO, which joined our partnership not so long ago, but which has been actively engaged in the borderland region for some time. And we really look forward to benefiting from your experience. And in that regard, again, I would like to welcome you, Right Honorable Mitchell, and this really shows your strong commitment to the initiative. With that said, I'd like to hand back to you, Honorable Ahmed Chide. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency, Ms. Mary Laure, African Development Bank Vice President, and also a consistent champion of our regional initiatives. Excellency, brother ministers from Horn of Africa Initiative member countries, Your Excellency, Minister Andrew Michel, UK Minister of State for FCDO, esteemed representative of development partners, I would like to recognize the presence of Dr. Sidi. Welcome to join us. Badia will be a very important partner for these initiatives. I would like also to recognize the presence of Japan, Canada, UK, and the Netherlands, as well as also Islamic Development Bank, in addition to our regular members. Officials of observer government and institutions, honorable delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good evening, and a warm welcome to participants here present and those virtually joining the 21st Horn of Africa Ministerial Meeting, taking place on the sidelines of African Development Bank annual meetings in Nairobi, Kenya. My brother Njuguna is not here. He's going to address us later. And I would like to welcome you to the vibrant host city of Nairobi. I would like to say, Karibuni Sana. I also take this opportunity to thank the professor and his team for extending Kenya's hospitality to this meeting's delegates. At the outset, I wish to acknowledge the presence of UK State Minister Andrew Michel and Excellency Dr. Workana Gabayo, IGAD Secretary General, who have been an institutionalized champion of regional integration and regional peace-building institution. Andrew, we would like to acknowledge you as a long-term friend of Africa, known to many of you. He is joining us today to underscore UK's deepening engagement with the Horn of Africa through Horn of Africa Initiative. I'm immensely delighted to co-chair today's meeting with my esteemed sister, Ms. Mary Laure Olugbade, AFDB Vice President and an impactful champion of Horn of Africa Initiative. Madam Vice President, this is the second time African Development Bank is hosting the Horn of Africa Initiative Ministerial on the margins of the annual meetings of the bank. Please accept our gratitude to you and your team for the exceptional organization, a high-quality partnership. To our other development partners, BMZ, EU, FCDO, and the World Bank, your support and sustained association continue to fuel our journey together towards a better tomorrow. Thank you for believing in the vision and staying the course. To the new and returning observers among us, we hope your attendance today will hasten your full membership in these innovative and force multiplier partnerships, and we are looking forward to your financing of the initiative. Before launching today's agenda, I would like us to pause and reflect on the plight of millions across the Horn exposed to natural and man-made disasters. The unfolding tragedy in Sudan continues with no end in sight. An untold number of lives are at stake in concrete and consequential ways, and millions are pushed to the brink of what is undeniably the worst humanitarian tragedy of our time. Sudan's misfortune also has regional implications, particularly the disruption of oil flow from South Sudan. It is a stark reminder of our economic interdependence and requires concerted action to stabilize and expand our shared economic landscape. Similarly, recent episodes of drought and damaging floods across the Horn highlight the region's vulnerability to climate-induced disasters and the limitations of our preparedness and response mechanisms. Therefore, today's gathering must affirm our solidarity with those experiencing severe hardships. More importantly, it must also reinforce our determination to act with compassion, courage, and resolve in favor of their recovery and well-being. Dear participants, your in-person attendance at this meeting in such large numbers is a testament to our shared and unwavering commitment to collective action. We assembled today not only to deliberate on the agenda at hand, but also to renew our pledge to the partnership and the objective of sustainable development, economic integration, and regional stability. These ministerial meetings are not mere formalities. They are the very pillars on which the partnership principles of country ownership and leadership rest. It is therefore fitting that we meet on the margins of African Development Bank's annual meetings to reaffirm the ties that bind us, the strength that lies in our unity, and the progress that stems from our partnership. Honorable Ministers and partners, the Horn of Africa is a region of contrast where challenges are as vast as the potential that lies within our lands and our people. Together, we have the power to transform this potential into tangible prosperity to enhance the lives of millions through improved infrastructure, economic integration, and proactive measures against the threats of climate change and food insecurity. Yet, due to the scale and complexity of our challenges, many in our region, especially those in the borderlands, still grapple with economic disparity and limited access to basic essential services. It is our shared duty to marshal our responses and the support of our partners to address these disparities. The recent destructive flood that swept across our region demand a renewed focus on climate action and resilience. We must also bolster the management of our water resources and build the resilience of our pastoralist communities against the new normal of recurring droughts and floods. The recent cyclical droughts that affected South Sudan further highlight the imperative of strengthening deep groundwater systems and water management, which could prove pivotal in fostering drought resilience and securing a more stable future. Work has already started on this with the flagship project supported by our development partners. The urgency of scaling up and broadening the scope of such interventions to cover regional water and flood management systems must remain a top priority. We also face the imperative of addressing the economic challenges that loom over our region. Reliance on concessional support is going to be very important. The urgency of debt sustainability discussions and innovative financing solutions are needed, such as debt swaps that we must explore, all critical to easing the resource strain in our economies. Honorable Ministers, partners, and Madam Co-Chair, in view of ongoing deliberations at African Development Bank meetings, our meeting today will be focused and succinct. The two key items on the agenda are the presentation of Horn of Africa Portfolio Performance Review and a progress update on the Borderlands Roadmap, with the expectation of continued and robust support from our partners. In keeping with our tradition of open dialogue, we will provide a platform for partners to share their insight on these critical issues. The remaining matter will be addressed under any other business. Without further ado, I now invite the Honourable Minister Andrew Michel, UK State Minister for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, to make his brief remarks. Thank you for your attention, and let us proceed with determination and purpose. Minister Andrew, you have the floor.
Well, good afternoon, dear colleagues and friends. It's great to be back in Nairobi so soon after my last visit, which was for the Africa Climate Summit, and to be sharing a platform with my dear brother, Minister Shide of Ethiopia, and my sister, the co-chair of the AFDB. And our purpose this afternoon is clear. It's up there on the board. It's to work together to build a prosperous, integrated, and peaceful Horn of Africa. And that is Britain's purpose. Britain's purpose is to assist and support everyone who is after that key objective. And I'm glad to have the opportunity to address such an esteemed group. The UK is committed to building our long-term relationships with you because, as the proverb puts it, if you want to go far, go together. And we know that we are stronger when we join up to bolster our security and strengthen our trade links. And we know too that our unity is vital in the face of challenges and crises like conflict and like climate change. And that is why the Horn of Africa initiative is so valuable as a unique platform with an impressive spirit of cooperation. Britain is honoured to join the initiative in December and more recently to appoint Alison Blackburn as our new special envoy to the region. She will take my seat when I have to go, I'm afraid, during the meeting to another meeting to drive forward the president of the AFDB's private sector initiative. So I hope you will forgive me for that. We already boast strong and long-standing partnerships with many states and organisations here today as we seek to build a more peaceful, stable and prosperous world. And I know that Alison will bring both knowledge and expertise to supporting those efforts in the months to come, including when it comes to today's discussions. Now, I hope this meeting will galvanise our efforts to address the challenges faced in the borderlands. From the menace of violent extremism to conflict and climate shocks, these are the problems that span national borders. A united approach is therefore necessary to resolve them. And Britain is already working closely with members here, including through our £15 million programme to build stability and end the scourge of Al-Shabaab in the border areas between Kenya, Somalia and Ethiopia. We stand ready to support the implementation of the Borderlands Roadmap, which will take a concerted effort from development partners and from ministers alike. I'm so grateful to Kenya for the new paper on social cohesion in the border areas, of which we shall discuss the preliminary findings in more detail a bit later. Britain was glad to offer technical assistance and endorses the case made so persuasively to scale up investment in marginalised borderland communities. We must also ensure that we give local leaders, communities, and individuals a voice in shaping those solutions, because it is, of course, in their hands to deliver them. And let me end by saying that I'm heartened by this gathering today. The fact we are all here in the same room, despite challenges across the region, demonstrates the spirit of commitment and cooperation that characterises this initiative. And I look forward to hearing the outcome of today's discussions and wish you all the very best for an engaging and productive evening. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew Mitchell, and for your commitment. The UK is a very important development partner for the regional member countries, and your strengthened effort in the lens of regional initiatives is going to complement what you are already doing in the region. So looking forward to our strengthened partnership. I will now invite Dr. Workene. IGAD is a very important institution for our region and is associated with these initiatives. I will give him a brief remark, followed by Germany and Dr. Sidi.
Your Excellency, my brother Ahmed Shide, the chairperson of this initiative, Your Excellency, the co-chair of this initiative, Excellency Ministers, Excellency partners who are here, all protocol is observed. I'm very happy to talk on this very important agenda. As you have mentioned, Your Excellency, IGAD is working on regional integration for the last 36 years. When IGAD was established after the drought and desertification in the region, the main agenda was regional integration through infrastructure. Today we are talking about the Horn of Africa initiative, and we did a lot of discussions, and we came up with a roadmap that really paves the way for the aspiration of our forefathers who were thinking how effectively we can bring the region together. Your Excellency, last time in Washington, D.C., we have discussed very critical issues which will really bring a very significant change in terms of our integration, and I will remind again the issue of borderland. I'm very happy today is one of the agenda is the issue of the borderland issue. And I said it before, as well as I want to remind all the participants, I'm very happy that the World Bank and all other partners who picked this agenda, and I am also very happy that our ministers here, they are leading how effectively we'll implement and resolve the challenges which we are facing in the borderland. The borderland for our region and also for Africa is not only the source of challenges, it's a source of opportunities. Most of the challenges we face in terms of climate change, conflict, and also, in other words, if you want to regional integration, trade, infrastructure, road, whatever, most importantly, the social integration of our society, borderland is a very critical intervention. So today I'm very happy that this agenda is on the table, and we are going to make a very important discussion and resolution. Your Excellency, I wish you a very fruitful deliberation, and I will come back later on details on the area of a detailed discussion. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you, Dr. Workene, for your strong leadership for regional integration agenda, for regional stability, for regional economic development as well. Definitely the issue of borderland is a priority for IGAD as well as for our initiatives. So we'll advance our discussion later. Now I will invite Germany.
Thank you very much, Excellency Minister Schiede, and welcome all Excellencies present and colleagues around the table. On behalf of the German government, it's a real pleasure to start with some good news in this meeting. And I think we need good news looking at the overall situation in the region, which remains very challenging and difficult. First of all, I think this gathering here shows again in full strength and with a number of observers present, the convening power of this initiative. And that is a very positive sign. And also thank you to you, Minister Schiede, for getting us all together here. Today's agenda, again, and colleagues have pointed this out, is highly relevant. Prosperous borderlands are an important pillar and a symbol for successful regional integration. The portfolio review is also important to further sharpen the focus of the initiative. This work needs to continue to come up with a clear definition of what projects directly contribute to the initiative's strategic goals. Germany believes that this initiative, the Horn of Africa initiative, can make a critical contribution to building a regional mindset through confidence and trust building and, of course, joint projects. In this sense, a joint investment agenda is a key driver of enhanced cooperation. But the added value of this initiative goes beyond that. It offers a forum for identifying opportunities, as already mentioned, together and gaining a joint understanding of challenges and risks. This makes the Horn of Africa initiative a critical forum to build a joint policy agenda for regional integration and work together on specific objectives. The borderlands is a good theme today. Such frameworks then serve to leverage and coordinate us development partners, and I am representing the German Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development here as a development partner to support the initiative's objectives. And as I said in the beginning, we need good news, so I'm glad to announce that as a next step in our partnership, Germany was the first bilateral partner to come into the initiative last year. we intend to make an announcement of 10 million euros to the Multi-Donor Trust Fund, which has been run by the World Bank. And together with the EU and Team Europe, and as part and the contribution also to the Global Gateway approach, we hope that this funding will actually contribute to the analytics needed for investment programs and to concrete proposals for making these projects actually happen and make a difference on the ground. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much, Germany. Thank you for your financial contribution. Germany is already a significant development partner for member countries in the region. Your announcement today is a testament to strengthen partnerships for the region. It's going to help and support our initiative to move forward. And the concept of regional mindset is also very much important. I think this consistent dialogue between ministers and development partners are creating collective awareness, collective consciousness, collective intelligence to address our regional challenges. So thank you very much. Dr. Sidi, do you want to say a few words briefly?
Thank you very much, my dear brother, Honorable Ahmed Shide, Minister of Finance of Ethiopia and chairperson of the initiative, honorable ministers, honorable partners, Mrs. Marilor Olugbade, Vice President of African Development Bank, dear partners, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen. I would like at the outset to express our thanks for my brother Ahmed Shide and for the initiative, the Horn of Africa initiative, to invite the Arab Bank for Economic Development for this very important gathering. And I would like to comment the support already received by the Horn of Africa initiative from different development partners in this room. And I would like also to express the interest of the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa to join as a member, a full-fledged member of this initiative. Last but not least, I would like also, on behalf of the Arab Coordination Group, to express and to reiterate their support for this initiative and their willingness to provide any type of support they can in various instruments, taking into consideration their respective program and project in the region. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sidi. On behalf of all the ministers, by acclamations, we welcome and fully endorse your full memberships, and any additional follow-up that is needed will be followed by the Secretariat. Other development partners who would like to wish and for intervention will give you in any other business. Now we'll move into the presentation. So the first presentation will be presentation of outcome of Horn of Africa Initiative Portfolio Review. So I will ask the presenters to have the stage for their presentation. Is it Gabriel, no? You can proceed on the presentation.
Sorry. Okay, this is better. Honorable Chair and Co-Chair, Honorable Ministers, development partners, observers, colleagues from the development partners and the member states, good afternoon. So today I want to, first of all, thank you for this opportunity to present the portfolio review of the Horn of Africa initiative. This is the first ever review as demanded or requested by the ministers at the 19th ministerial that took place in December. So this is just a quick overview of the Horn of Africa portfolio. So far, since 2019, when the initiative was adopted, the development partners have approved 119 projects with a value of about $10 billion. And the distribution of that portfolio, as you can see in the pie charts, by development partners, and also we have a distribution by the pillars of the Horn. The Horn of Africa initiative has 4 pillars: infrastructure, connectivity, trade and economic integration, resilience, and human capital development. So the distribution, you can see most of it is in the resilience pillar, perhaps reflecting also the kind of challenges that the region is facing due to climate change and other challenges. And then infrastructure is the second biggest pillar by portfolio. Okay, I'm trying to move this. Okay, so now out of the 119 projects, for this first ever review, we tried to just take a bird's eye view of a selection of projects. And this is the filtering process that we went through. So first of all, we looked at the approvals and we looked at how strongly they are relevant to the priority package that was agreed upon by the ministers. And then we also looked at projects that were approved after the October 29th launch. And then we also looked at projects that at least if more than 6 months old, so approved before July of 2023. And this review focused on the 3 initial development partners, that's the African Development Bank, the European Union, and the World Bank, for the reason that their projects are much older than the projects by the new partners. So as we intend to make this a regular exercise, we are going to expand this. And then the methodology, we had a questionnaire that each development partner utilized. We had this questionnaire with 17 parameters, and having a unified questionnaire allowed us to compare results and bring them together. So we looked at different internal ratings of the institutions. We also looked at the project documents like the implementation progress reports, aid memoirs of the task team leaders, and we also had structured conversations with the task team leaders. So this brings us now to a quick overview of from projects that were reviewed, which is about just over a third of the whole portfolio. Overall, 75% of the projects received a favorable rating. And 54% of the projects have some challenges in terms of procurement delays. And the distribution per pillar is you can see in the pie chart. So mostly the pillar 1 projects are the ones facing the most procurement delays. And you see that this is also consistent with the age of the projects. Those projects that are much newer are still facing some challenges because for infrastructure, these are multinational projects. It takes a lot more for them to really take off. So we consider these some take-off challenges. And then we also have issues to do with disbursement delays. And by country, there are variations across countries. Some countries are doing better than others. And we'll come to the key findings and learnings and recommendations of this exercise. So as I said, this exercise was done jointly by the World Bank, EU, and ourselves at the African Development Bank. So I'll invite the World Bank to just take us through the main findings, the lessons learned, and the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel. You can be brief for the interest of time.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick. And good afternoon, honorable invitees. My job is to walk you through the primary findings. Can you put the slide on? The key findings of the portfolio review. So just a brief caveat here is that this is a cursory review of the projects. The intention is to give you the high-level top-line trends in terms of what's happening to your portfolio. We will, after this, meet with your respective country teams and drill down and go through project by project to understand what the issues are and what needs to happen. So with that, the first finding we have before us is basically the message that the portfolio performance remains robust, despite the many regional and global challenges that were present at the time of the launch. So we had COVID, the floods, we had several regional conflicts and so on. That notwithstanding, portfolio performance remains reasonably robust. And no projects, none, were cancelled because of poor performance. I think that's the top line message. And as you'll see on the thing, of the 27 projects reviewed, 18.5 received an internal rating of satisfactory, 55.6 received a moderately satisfactory rating, and 26% were rated as unsatisfactory. So in other words, 3/4 or 75% of the projects were reviewed as satisfactory or moderately satisfactory. The second finding is that despite the strong performance, the aggregate strong performance, the country level results vary, country by country, and perhaps project by project. And depending on the country, there are several factors that explains capacity, what, you see them up there. And we have cited a specific example of a project financed by the African Development Bank that was being implemented in several countries. Same institution, same project over several countries. And its performance is rated satisfactory in South Sudan and Ethiopia, moderately satisfactory in Kenya, and unsatisfactory in Djibouti, Somalia, and IGAD. So clearly, same project, different countries. So there are some nuances within this finding, and as I've said, we will work with your respective teams to understand those and discuss how to do. The third finding is that the portfolio distribution for the Horn of Africa initiative is changing, it's shifting. Initially, at the launch of the project, countries that came with ready bankable projects took up the lion's share. Therefore, Ethiopia and Kenya accounted for 28% and 28 and 20% of the project portfolio respectively, meaning the remaining half of the portfolio was spread amongst the other member countries. During this time, Somalia, who was also early partner, going through a HIPIC exercise, and it's only after the HIPIC completion that Somalia is now able to benefit from the resources of the unlocking the finance and investment of the project. And South Sudan, a recent member, is now beginning to benefit from the approvals from the project. As a footnote, I should note that two countries, Sudan and Eritrea, remains fairly inactive in terms of operations under this project. The fourth finding is that the timely execution of emergency projects that we've experienced demonstrate the Horn of Africa initiative as an effective instrument. I think during the several crises we've experienced, we're able to leverage innovative financing mechanisms, get some exemptions and so on and so forth, And then we were able to use IGAD as the implementing partner. And as a result, implementation and disbursement was swift during the crisis. As it says, within 1 month of approval, the projects reached effectiveness and achieved higher than projected disbursement. So clearly, this is a fit for purpose, and with the right kind of energy we put into it, we should be able to achieve this for all of our other projects. Next. Finding number 5 is that country ownership and leadership has improved regional cooperation. I think the commitment here is to regional cooperation, and the fact that this initiative is structured around country ownership and leadership has enabled enhanced regional cooperation. Strong ownership that promotes policy, harmonization, and so on. This has largely, the ownership and leadership has largely focused at the ministerial level in the form of this type of a partnership forum. However, the caveat here is that there is need to devolve this part to the project level. We're still short of effective partnership on the ground at the project level. Upstream in the project cycle, from preparation to implementation, there's room to improve country ownership and leadership. Finding number 6 talks about the involvement of regional economic communities. They are indeed crucial and essential for the successful fostering of regional activities. IGAD has been an exemplary partner in this exercise, as exemplified during the emergency crisis. However, these regional institutions are also experiencing capacity challenges. And we've noted IGAD and EAPP, the East Africa Power Pool. That's the other thing. A regional institution trying to do regional integration through energy, but continues to experience chronic capacity constraint. Therefore, this capacity constraint also applies to the national level PIUs, project implementation units, and PCUs, project coordination units. Therefore, our approach to capacity building should, while celebrating the effectiveness of the institutions, look at how do we strengthen these regional institutions to play their rightful role. The 7th finding is the issue of capacity. Capacity is an issue, is a chronic issue across the region. No exception, none whatsoever. Every country in the region, regardless of how well developed it is experiencing capacity constraints. Particularly in specialized areas of public financial management, project management, audit, procurement, disbursement, you name it. These specialized skills are in short supply. And as a result, lengthy recruitment of staff and so on is creating unnecessary, undue delays in procurement and implementation. Capacity, as you can imagine, is perhaps more severe in the fragile and post-conflict countries, right? Now, where some of this capacity exists, there are some countries where limited capacity exists. Recruiting and retaining the specialized expertise is becoming also a burden. Either we're not paying enough, on this further, but retaining staff is becoming an issue, particularly those working at the PIU level in local areas. The staff is becoming an issue. Also an issue with this issue of, you see, to meet project effectiveness, countries are removing staff from the Ministry of X and putting them onto specific projects so that the project can get cleared and get approved. When these projects are approved, those staff return back to the home institution. So this is sort of a temporary revolving door that gets the project approved, but not implemented. And this is equally as bad as not approving it. So this is an issue we need to take note of. Finding number 8 is delays in disbursement of counterpart funds. As you know, most of the infrastructure projects across the region has relocation of affected populations. If it's a road coming through your district, your home is demolished, what? And that requires counterpart funding from the host country. And even though this agreement is reached at the time of the project, we are finding that because of liquidity, positions of governments, and other issues, counterpart funding is becoming difficult. Recently, listening to a state minister in a member country, governments explained to the parliament, the national parliament, that the Ministry of Finance is challenged to meet the counterpart funding requirements. So this is a binding constraint on all of our countries. And there are ways we can address this, and we'll look at that during the recommendation. But this is something that requires your attention. Finding number 9 is effective contract management is a leading indicator of good implementation. Projects that are effectively managed and implemented, contract management at the heart of it. We find that approval effectiveness delays beyond the accepted schedule is occurring because of the lack of project readiness. Projects are coming to the donor institutions and being processed for approval by the board before they are fully cooked, as it were, or fully ready, before they are design ready and technical studies are completed. So what happens is, after the project has been approved and the clock starts ticking and interests and commitment fees and so on start accruing, then we start looking for designs and what. These are all issues that need to take place prior to board approval. And what we are looking at is that in projects with large procurement and bidding documents need to take place ahead of time. And in this, I tried not to mention specific countries. In this case, the Ethio-Djibouti power interconnector is cited as an example. This is phase 2 of a project that was effectively implemented during phase 1, and one would assume all the lessons and issues would have been learned. But 2 years after this project has been declared effective, it still stands at less than 2% of disbursement. This is a 4, maybe 5-year implementation project. 2 years has elapsed and we're still at 2% disbursement. This is precisely because project effectiveness was not exercised. So we are flagging this, and we will take this up with the respective project team, but we raise it as a top-line message to the ministers. Finding number 10, and I'll quickly wrap up, the issue of financial management. Again, I've touched on this, but it bears repeating again and again, the issues of financial management and its impact on the project. Impact of the problem remains that financial management capacity is weak. Audit reports are qualified, they're late, cash management, budget tracking, all of those related to FM remain a challenge. Equally, a message to our development partners is that with each donor and each project having its own specific customized financial management requirements and standards and manuals, makes it doubly difficult for countries to comply with your requirements and to report it in a timely manner. Therefore, there is a need to consider how do we harmonize our own financial reporting. The message is not reduce the financial management standards, but just that it be harmonized so that countries are not overly burdened with trying to meet 10 projects with 10 different procedures and manuals and so on. So this is the key message on thing. And the last finding, Mr. Chairman, is that the issue of coordination, generally coordination is overlooked at the project design stage because there is a tendency to say, it's too costly. So coordination is often overlooked, but it impacts the effectiveness of projects. But coordination between the countries and the development partners remains robust, alive, and I think this is a testament to that. However, there is an issue of effectiveness of coordination, and again we cite the Ethio-Djibouti power project versus the Ethio-Kenya electricity project, where there was an effective coordination mechanism that worked well and project implementation advanced well. Where we did not have that in the current Ethio-Djibouti project, we are experiencing issues. So coordination is something to consider. So in concluding, Mr. Chairman, I want to highlight some of the key lessons and recommendations that we think. One is, the first lesson is that 1 out of 4 projects reviewed is unsatisfactory and is at risk. 1 out of 4. So there's a lot of room for improvement, and we ask that close attention be paid to this project at the ministerial level, particularly at the Ministry of Finance level. We are asking ministers, and we will be happy to get into the detail of this, but to ensure that performance standards and readiness is complied with through the Ministry of Finance to make sure that this happens. The second is the three-way partnership between countries, development partners, and the RECs, particularly IGAD, has proven effective. I think this is a model that can be emulated in other regions of the continent, where the development partners work with the countries and create the policy space that allows countries to own and lead the process, and working through a regional instrument such as IGAD, it has been an effective model, I think, for all of us to look at. The third issue is the issue of the timely release of funds. And the message here is, the recommendation is that to allow the front loading of funds to the project, that there are proceeds of the loans and grants that's being received to be used for that purpose. So instead of trying to go out and raise own money from local budgets or national budgets, the proceeds of the loans that you take, the loans or the grant that you take, can be used to finance counterpart financing, so that you don't cause unnecessary delays. The fourth is the issue of capacity. The message here is that as a cross-cutting in all sectors, we call on countries to take a regional approach to addressing capacity. Both national and regional capacity is lacking, and we need to take a much broader and higher level approach. Fifth is, piggybacking on that, the issue of regional approach. And what we are recommending here is, for example, and I will conclude briefly, Minister, you find FM capacity lacking across the region. So instead of each country training its own cadre of FM experts, auditors, and accountants, we are saying, let's take a regional approach. Let's train a group of experts that can be deployed if they're trained in Djibouti and they're working in Djibouti, but if there is an issue in Kenya, they can be deployed to Kenya. Kenyan accountants can be deployed to Ethiopia. That way, through a mechanism such as IGAD or whoever you wish to assign, there is a need to look at these capacity constraints as regional challenges and regional approaches. Practices, they're killing the capacity of countries. And the message is that let us use this platform, the Horn of Africa Initiative, where we pledge that all projects going through this platform will use a standardized approach to financial management, procurement, disbursement. They use the same manuals and the same procedures. That will relieve the pressure on countries to meet these requirements. And the issue of IGAD and other RECs, I think that the knowledge hubs, I think has been mentioned. Number 8 is the issue of project readiness and smooth implementation. We have discussed this, and in 8 and 9, what we want to recommend is that ministers here, ministers of finance, working with the Horn of Africa Secretariat and other partners to develop a readiness system, Ministry of Finance, where every project that comes from the line ministry goes through a readiness checklist at the Ministry of Finance before that project is sent to the ADB or the World Bank or the EU or whoever the partner may be. This readiness checklist, I think, will allay concerns such as the ones we've discussed. And again, the Horn of Africa Initiative and the MDTF Technical Fund will be available to support such an initiative.
You can summarize, Gabriel.
This is the last one, actually. The internal checklist.
Good.
I know I'm not bringing good news, so... the bearer of news is that. But the top line message, again, is partnership is going well, but there is room for improvement. As you ministers have been very active and effective and successful in mobilizing resources, we need you now to focus that same energy and enthusiasm into the implementation of these projects. And the development partners and secretariat and the trust fund are available to support this initiative. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Gabriel. And I would like to thank both presenters. The issue of portfolio review has highlighted that portfolio effectiveness and efficiency is very urgent and it's very important, and we should focus more on implementation capacity so that we deliver on the objective of the program. So the last message is well taken, and I would like to say the presentation itself is self-explanatory, that both the analysis and the recommendations are very clear, and that will shorten the time for our discussion. With that note, I will ask Excellencies Ministers if you have quick reflections. Brother Elias, I think you would like to come.
I'm checking some information through my team. I prefer to come back later. I leave others to comment. I have a couple of comments, but I wait some confirmations.
Okay, any additional comments? Somalia. Yeah. Yeah.
Honorable Chair, Co-Chair, fellow finance ministers, distinguished representatives from donor community and observers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to participate in this 21st ministerial meeting of the Horn of Africa Initiative on the sidelines of the African Development Bank annual meetings. I want to extend my extensive gratitude to the host government, the government of Kenya, and congratulate successfully organizing this landmark African Development Annual Meetings. I also want to recognize the efforts of our diligent and committed Initiative Secretariat and experts. This portfolio review was important at this juncture because we needed to genuinely take stock of where we actually are in the implementation of the initiative priorities. It's clear that much progress has been made in terms of resource mobilization, as well as also in terms of making progress on implementation. And there is a strong collective commitment to deliver an impact through the projects in the portfolio. This must remain the case going forward, despite the challenges highlighted in this informative presentation. At the overall portfolio level, we need to improve implementation as the implementation has been quite challenging. I'm glad that Somalia is now starting to be allocated and implemented some important approved projects after a very slow start owing to unsustainable debt. We finally unburdened after achieving the heavy completion point in December 2023. Our hope is that this will continue in this positive direction as we strengthen our project management and financial absorption capacities. Where Somali projects are unsatisfactory, we are committed to understanding the underlying reasons and finding the way forward with all implementing partners. This is critical because, limited disbursement rate of development projects entails delaying development benefits from citizens. So we are very committed to looking into that, but we need to understand the intricacies in terms of, as far as concerned to specific countries. We are also hopeful of gaining access to further concessional financing to invest in key initiative priorities, including infrastructure after debt relief, and we hope all our development partners can continue to be supportive with more grant and highly concessional financing to Somalia and many other Horn of African countries. In conclusion, I strongly feel that we need to discuss and disseminate project progress and recommendations more regularly at country level. This will improve coordination, will help us identify bottlenecks early, and help to deliver projects on time for the betterment of our people, and I thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Any additional reflection? Okay. South Sudan.
Thank you, Chair, and all the ministers present, our partners, and fellow participants. Good afternoon. South Sudan shares the sentiment that was expressed earlier, especially the 11 findings that were highlighted and the 10 lessons that were drawn. Especially, we are very happy that a progress like the one that has been shown has been made. And this shows that the leadership of the Horn of Africa initiative is really working day and night. And as one of the countries that have joined in recent years, we are very happy that such progress continues to be made. Now, we would like to identify that for the case of South Sudan, it appears that implementation is very slow, but we have seen one finding that was highlighted earlier in which South Sudan is among the countries that were, with regard to rating, the project were considered unsatisfactory, and we'd just like to maybe ask a question to Gabriel and his colleague. What were some of the conditions that led to that rating, if you can just highlight those to us? But what we would like to request really is for the HOAI to speed up the approvals of the projects, and at the same time also move beyond the pipelines. As one of the newcomers to the initiative, we have not moved beyond the pilot, and we are requesting both the partners and the initiative to look into that. Please advocate for countries like South Sudan so that we move beyond what we have today. As was highlighted earlier by the Vice President for the FDB, there are a number of challenges today facing South Sudan, both from the border and within. Some of those, especially the conflict in Sudan, goes beyond Sudan to South Sudan and other countries. And as a result, we would like also the initiative to ensure that whatever affects one country affects the others. Because of the connection that we have, nothing stays in one country. So really, advocating for more resources, and the donors that I see here on the table, South Sudan would like to see more because the needs are huge. Thank you very much.
Thank you. South Sudan, points well taken. Any additional reflection? Should we? Okay, UK.
Thank you very much, co-chairs, and thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. I just wanted to make just 2 points, Mr. Chairman, and I will be very brief. First is, I said thank you for the presentation, but I think it's really important to recognise it was quite honest in terms of the challenges. I think that's the sort of discussion that we'd like to encourage. I think there are lots of lessons that we can all learn and address in partnership. And just the second point, of course, the focus on the review was on the, as was explained, on the original members of the Horn of Africa Initiative in terms of development partners. The UK, of course, as a new member, we have quite a lot of programmes already in the region. I think 23-24 is £265 million worth. But these are lessons that we can also, some of them are familiar to us who are working in the region, but we also want to learn from that review and to feed that into our further discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, UK. Brother Elias, you want to come? Okay.
Je vais parler en français.
I'll speak in French.
I will exercise again my English, Ahmed. Welcome, Asante Sante, Karibu Sante, Excellency Minister. Karibu Sana. No, just I wanted very quickly first to really congratulate and thanks Germany for the announcement. It will help definitely to increase the multi-trust fund together with the EU, and we can leverage much more in terms of resource for the preparedness as well as what Gabriel was explaining a little bit on the challenges on execution and implementation. Second, welcome to Brother Sidi and from Badia. We were expecting, and you did it. And again, thank you for joining us. From number one comment, and I would like to go a little bit beyond explaining what happened and what went wrong in that red flag project, second line interconnections. I will avoid to go into details because it will bring me to figure out some other subject. So I remain silent. And, from that, Ahmed, and we are part of the bureaucracy, but we have the small share of it. Partners also have their own responsibility in that. I want to emphasize much more today on 2 points without talking. I don't want to talk about Djibouti. We have the Houthis. We are dealing with the Houthis. It's enough at this point of time. I want to talk about South Sudan. Why I'm talking about these two? These are the two most fragile in terms of security as well as in terms of project and preparedness. We made it a little bit better for the last period of time with the Somalia. I would emphasize very strongly that we must look seriously to push South Sudan requirement in terms of at the basic requirement in terms of physical infrastructure. They need to be connected to Ethiopia by road as quick as possible. We know the projects are designed. We know Ethiopia were also planning to put its own resources to help South Sudan. Because of the crisis happening in Sudan, there is a need to really help look on other opportunities, outlet. We are going under review in our trilateral agreement together with South Sudan, Ethiopia, and Djibouti. We started supporting very strongly to South Sudan, but they require to have that leg from Ethiopia to South Sudan. Number two, Somalia. And again, when we're talking about Somalia, the first border with Djibouti is Somaliland. I don't want to talk about politics here. I want to talk about development, about togetherness. We have already confirmed financing for the border from Djibouti to Zela. It's around 30 kilometers away from Djibouti. There is a gap in terms of financing from Zela to Borama and to Jigjiga. We, Djibouti government, we value the connectivity and the mobility within the region. And we value the competition also. That segment will be coming as a competition to Djibouti ports to some extent. But again, we are promoting that competition because if it's done in a healthy way, everyone will take advantage of. So I know the EU, the World Bank, and ADB are ready to look at seriously in that. Please try to fast track, as it's also matter of regional and integration. We did our part. It remains now from the partners, and of course, my brother Behi has to also introduce the request for the gap in that road. But there are numbers of other roads missing within Somalia toward Kenya, as well as Somalia to Ethiopia. Even knowing the tension existing. Some years back, Djibouti was proposing to undertake studies up to Assab from the north part of Djibouti. We have no relation. We have in a bad relation context with Eritrea, but still we believe in the long run we will come together. Is it? Yes. At last, I used to always repeat, and again I will repeat with that, the Horn of Africa is about one people, the same people. We can, Minister of Somalia, Minister from my brother Shide, we can talk the same language together here, but on our mother tongue. And we're leading 3 different countries in the region. So flags are different, name of countries are different, but we are all serving one people. So what all we need is leadership at the top, including Minister of Finance. We need to work together to deliver for that one people in this region. When it comes to my comment on the subject, I leave this to Minister Ahmed.
Thank you, Brother Elias, for bringing the issue of the critical issue of connectivity, the missing link, as well as enhancing connectivity in South Sudan, Somalia, Djibouti, and Ethiopia as well. Definitely, that is part of the priority project which we have to work with our partners, and the Secretariat should take note of this. And also the issue of the second line, we will follow up upon our return to our headquarters. We need to follow up on the issue of the electricity project, both involving Djibouti and EEP, so I myself will convene with the necessary departments in Ethiopia to check where we are from our side. Good, with that note, I think we have to move on this subject, but I see flags, so European Union, followed by BMZ, and then we will wrap up this session, and Professor Njuguna is already here. He joined us, our host. We need to listen to his message of host. EU and BMZ.
Thank you very much for the floor. I'm Henriette Geiger, the European Union ambassador here in Kenya. And I'm speaking on behalf of the European Union, and I wanted to express the EU's unwavering support for the Horn of Africa initiative. We have been at the birth hour of the Horn of Africa initiative, and very few know that there has been a first attempt in 2007, and I was part of the team who tried to lift it off in 2007. My colleague here was also there. We were not successful because the time had not come. But the idea of building bridges and fostering connectivity to foster also political cooperation is a winning idea, and that you're all around the table today shows your commitment and that you have really recognized the power of this idea. And we in the EU know that this idea was what built the European Union out of a war situation. So if it worked for the EU, it must work for you. And to recognize the joint economic interest, I think, is the winning formula, and that's why the EU is there. Yes, was there yesterday, today, and tomorrow for you. And it's very telling that the portfolio is performing despite the multiple challenges, geopolitical, regional, COVID, climate change, all of that. So it's a small miracle that we have a reasonable performance of the portfolio, and this is only due to the political ownership, your vision, it's there. So we're very happy that this is going strong and continues. And we all know that regional programs are difficult to implement. They're difficult to implement, but the result and the profit, the benefit you get out of it is multiple in comparison to national projects. So what you can get out of it is amazing if it works well, so it is worth the investment. But in the pipeline, we should also be flexible. So, of course, a pipeline takes a long time to develop, but you should also, in a fast-changing world, be flexible. And you have shown that with the Locust Initiative, that you are flexible when new needs come out. Not only focusing on what is most pressing, but also where is the best impact, the highest impact, and the low-hanging fruit. And I'm making the connection here to the African Free Trade Area. The IGAD region needs to get ready for it. You're an important building block, and you also have to see the interconnections with EAC, with COMESA, the other blocks, and see how you can connect the different corridors. And it's not only about regional infrastructure in the traditional sense. Without harmonization of standards and regulations, you will not get very far in building bridges, roads, and digital infrastructure. So this has to go hand in hand, and that needs a lot of political ownership. We as EU, we have started now to work as Team Europe, so with our member states. We have formed what we call an EU alliance within the Horn of Africa initiative to be able to harmonize better and to deliver better results and inputs for the Horn of Africa initiative. At the moment, we have 83 million euros committed under the trade and economic integration and resilience, but this is just the first nucleus, and around that we will, with our member states, do more to be more powerful, a more powerful partner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, EU, as well as Team Europe. Indeed, your strong partnership to Horn of Africa initiative is very important and will further complement what you have been doing in terms of bilateral partnership with member countries. So now I give to BMZ, but I would like to ask you to be very, very brief.
Thank you, Minister. And I can just make reference to what my colleague and sister, to stay in the wording here, from the EU and also the UK said on the portfolio review. We really welcome this assessment, and it's been candid, and I think that's good because we can learn from that kind of assessment, and we with our programs are really happy to also go under that umbrella of joint assessment so that we can work together and move forward together. We really like the idea of three-way partnerships and also of more regional coordination on capacity development, as just to pick out two key findings. And then a third remark, because there was a lot around harmonization and alignment. I mean, we are going through this process of reform of the World Bank and the MDBs, to align and work together better. So maybe there's some benefit coming out of that. And we are also working as German cooperation through KfW, the German Development Bank, on working together more aligned with the World Bank, for example. This is work in progress, but I think I'm just saying this here because I'm signaling that we also see that work needs to be done in that field. So I just wanted to point out. Last point, we do hope that moving forward, we will all align strongly to the strategy of the Horn of Africa initiative and a joint portfolio that is to be built up under the MDTF, which we will also now join. Last point, unfortunately, I need to move quickly, but I'll be back for dinner and hope to continue the conversation with you there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Germany. I think we did a lot of discussion on this. I would like to summarize points. I would like to recognize that the review was under time pressure, and I would like to appreciate the effort put by various teams in its preparation. I would like also to agree the broad diagnostic, conclusions and recommendations and lesson learned well appreciated. It is candid, it is telling the truth, so we need to take assignment to improve it. I would like to know that portfolio improvement will need effort from the ground up as well as engagement with development partners and government ministries, as we have been taking significant commitment in terms of resource mobilization. We need to also give significant commitment and attention to project implementations. And the portfolio review needs to be shared and discussed. I think the Secretariat will make it ready in a few weeks' time so that member countries can have access. And then I would like also to propose that portfolio reviews become a planned periodic activity. It shouldn't wait all these types of meetings. We need to have regular biannual annual meeting. Most of the recommendations is very important. I would like also to recommend that Secretariat will follow up country-level in-depth discussion between our meetings in terms of portfolio reviews. And I would like also to agree on some of the recommendations which are implementation readiness review approach. I think that's very important, particularly Ministers of Finance. When we submit a project for financing, we need to make sure that the projects are well prepared and readiness are implemented. I would like also to agree on regional capacity building through IGAD. It's very important. IGAD should coordinate the regional capacity building effort. The Secretariat will follow up with IGAD. And also harmonization with development partners requirement, bilateral, multilaterals. We need to have a unified, harmonized approach. So with that note, portfolio effectiveness and efficiency is a very, very critical issue. We need to move forward in terms of urgency of this matter. It has been very transparent and candid. So I would like to thank both presenters for both the analysis of the review as well as also the recommendations. So with that note, we will wind up this session. Before we move into next agenda items, we are very happy that Professor Njuguna is with us now. He has multiple tasks at any single moment as he is the host minister for these very big gatherings. So he was able to come and grace our occasions. And I would like to give the floor to you for your messages for our meeting. Thank you. You have the floor.
Thank you very much indeed. Let me start by saying welcome to Nairobi. Of course, the beauty about being here is that we are able to have this meeting. And Mr. Chairman, this is the largest group that I have seen in our meetings. So it means that, is it centrality or is it coincidence?
It's a commitment for them.
Oh, it's the commitment. Okay.
Commitment.
Okay, thank you very much. I think, but let me say welcome to Nairobi. I did say, I think it was on Sunday I was meeting the constituency and I was saying that the rains are usually coming at 5, but sometimes it happens that the rainmaker decides to change his mind or her mind, and it comes at it, but it has been quite good. So welcome to Nairobi. It's not the city in the sun. Today was a little bit chilly, but you don't have to worry. Chair, thank you very much, and I think one of the things, I want to do two things. One of them is actually to acknowledge that the portfolio review is very important, and that's what we agreed on in the 19th ministerial meeting. A resolution was passed on the need to carry out a portfolio review. One of them is to take stock in terms of the status of the implementation of the project. But more importantly, it's also to showcase what the development partners were supporting and collaborating with the Horn of African countries, the states, and even the implementation of those projects. And even that is also important for us to show the appreciation in terms of what was happening when that portfolio review encompasses some development projects that are working. So the Kenyan case is very important. We have active projects, and I wanted to make sure that that is what I will present. The first pillar was regional infrastructure networks. It means that they affect the Horn of African countries, especially the Horn of Africa Gateway. It's a development project covering Isiolo, Wajir, Elwak, Madera, funded by the World Bank. The important part of this project is the development objective is to improve transport and trade along the Isiolo-Madera corridor. And that means that we get nearer to Ethiopia and the other countries in the region. And the specific objective of this project were to improve road transport services along the corridor by reducing travel time and also vehicle operation cost, and to improve road traffic safety along the road. The Horn of Africa, the second one is the Horn of Africa, is Elwak Lamu Madera Road Upgrading Project. Again, this is funded by the African Development Bank, and the project will be implemented in 2 lots. The lot 1 is upgrading the Elwak Road, and the lot 2 is upgrading the Gari Lamu Road. It's about, one is 74 kilometers, the other one is 68 kilometers. One of the things about these areas is that they are dry, they are arid, semi-arid and semi-arid areas, and so communication is actually very difficult. The third project is a multinational one, Kenya-South Sudan Road Section Corridor, that runs from Raseru, Kitare, Mofas, Kokicha on the Kenyan side, and is funded by the African Development Bank. And the project development objective is to improve transport connectivity between Kenya and South Sudan, and that also is also going to help in terms of deepening the trade connectivity and even accessibility to markets, and also alleviate fragility because essentially we have realized that even in the Kenyan side, once you have good roads, you also reduce the terrorism kind of activities that happen when the roads are not very, very, very good. And then it means that the corridor between Raseru, Nadapo, Juba corridor and the Kenya, South Sudan is going to help us in terms of reducing travel time and travel cost. I always see trucks moving from Mombasa to Juba. It takes a long time. So that is going to improve safety. On the Kenyan side, the proposed bank-funded project will complement ongoing interventions financed by the World Bank, KfW, and also the European Investment Bank. Then there is a project on human-centered digitization funded by the European Union, and this aims to boost digital connectivity, enhancing digital skills and digital governance. For us, we know the benefits of these things. Most of the time, I think last week and this week, every time I've talked about digitization in terms of coordinating most of the activities that we do. And that reducing digital gap is very, very important because it allows us to leapfrog digital economic transformation, something I started talking much earlier, but I think we are coming of age. And then it means that open and inclusive digital governance, inclusive online public service delivery with a secure and open e-government system is going to be quite important. The other day I was telling my colleagues at the Treasury that we need e-procurement services. But they missed the boat. They went and trying to say we are actually digitizing the same system that we have. And if you go to the world today, you'll find that the e-procurement, there's a marketplace, and the solutions will come from the market. And we try to do that with even simple things like buying air tickets. They saw the difference. So it's something that we really need to push for. So that's why this human-centered digitization or digitalization, depending on the English you are familiar with, I like saying digitization. You'll see that can change the whole spectrum. Pillar 2 is trade and economics integration. And this is very important. The first one is to de-risk inclusion and value enhancement on rural economies project drive, which is funded by the World Bank. And the objective of this project are to enhance pastoralist access to financial services for drought risk mitigation, include them in the value chains, and also facilitate the livestock trade in the Horn of Africa. You can imagine this is actually the core of these arid and semi-arid areas in terms of the economy. And once they are able to put that economy in order, it means that it can generate wealth to move into other areas. The second one is East African Regional Transport Trade and Development Facilitation Project, and it's the second phase and is funded by the World Bank. And the objective of this is to improve the movement of goods and people along the Lokicha, Nandapo, and Nakodoko. Why do you have so difficult names? We like simpler names. Part of the Eldoret-Napo Road in the northwestern part of Kenya, in particular, to enhance connectivity between Kenya and South Sudan in general. And this project comprises of 4 components. Then the third one is to promote investments in circular economy in East and Southern Africa, ABSA project, which was funded by the European, it's approved and will be funded by the European Union. And this program supports the ABSA countries in their transition from linear to circular economy by creating an enabling environment for investment in circular business models and improving access to necessary skills and finance. You can imagine this centrality, this depends even our connectivity, because we can take advantage of what is available. Now, let me come to observation. First, Kenyan portfolio is active and performing well. And some projects are experiencing, but also some projects are experiencing delays due to lack of counterpart funds. And this has been a major problem because once a project requires counterpart funding, it has to be budgeted. Most of the time we want to sign before it is even budgeted, so it means that it doesn't move because the counterpart fund must be there. So one of the things is that it shows in two aspects. One of them is raw absorption, which is not the case. Because essentially it can't start because there cannot be disbursement for that project because it is dependent on the counterpart funding. And the second one is the completion of the project takes so long. It's like, did you need this project? You can imagine the kind of endogenous questions that are asked. Did you need this project? Why did it take 10 years? I was in, I think, OPEC fund, and I was seeing some structures for Kenya. From 2018, no disbursement has ever been made. But the other thing is that we have to be coordinated, because if a ministry goes and signs for a project and then they did not budget the counterpart funding, then it can be there for a long time. Anyway, something that we can do. But the proposal for me is that if we are all facing physical challenges, for example, in Kenya, 2022, we had to shift so much of the fiscal resources to save lives of both human and animals because of the drought. In 2023, the El Nino, we had to shift again resources to save lives from El Nino. 2024, we are not out of the woods yet. We are actually shifting a lot of resources to save lives. So far, almost 300 people have died because of the floods, and so many people have been displaced. You can imagine. Under those circumstances, the proposal is to say, let's look at it in terms of sit down and let's not sign. Let's not sign. Let's first of all agree that what we can do is, if we have a challenging environment, let's see how we can we can discuss propositions in terms of what we can do. First, the project can continue, and the counterpart funds can come towards the end. We have tried to do that with the Japanese project, but again, we were caught red-handed because the project was completing and our 20% was still waiting. But we are rushing very fast right now. But it could be a good proposition, but it's a discussion and negotiations that we can have, isn't it? If you see the project has gone 3 quarters and it's only a quarter remaining, you have an incentive, isn't it? You have an endogenous incentive to complete it and to provide by counterpart funding. Anyway, it's just a proposal. But we can, on the basis of what you experience, we can actually sit and agree and even negotiate, because all of us want the development, all of us want the project, all of us are ambitious in terms of seeing the results. So how do we fasten those results? I don't know whether I have finished, Mr. Chairman, or you are. Of course, the next update was on the implement.
One page remaining for you.
One project. This update on the implementation of borderlands roadmap. This,
we are coming to the next.
Oh, you are not coming. No, then I have finished my agenda. Thank you. But at least I just wanted, I think these reviews will also be good so that once we bring them out, we can actually maybe be making it even more graphic to show what are the constraints in each and every project. Because these projects are interconnected, we can actually have a debate and see how we can have common solutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Njuguna, for the wonderful hospitality as a host. And the hospitality that has been accorded to all of us was very excellent, and we have been treated well. All of us, we feel at home. So your intervention also will complement what we have already summarized as the first session. Now we move directly to the next agenda items. We have to finish at 8. You want to go?
Mr. Chair, if you allow me, I just want to recommend with regard to the assessment presented earlier.
Okay, be brief.
No, just one point. It will be good that during the coming period, I think next meeting will be in October during annual meetings, right? And prior to that 22 meeting, we need to ask the Secretariat to make a tour in countries, and we make a national presentation, and especially those projects which has some delays and challenges. So we need to get solved prior to October.
Fully agreed. I think we already said Secretariat should follow up country in-depth review and discussions, and the update of those outcomes should be briefed on the next meeting. So we fully endorse what you have already said. So with that note, we finish the first agenda items. Now we have to move to the next agenda items. We have to finish at 8. So the next agenda items is update on the status of implementation of Borderland Roadmap and associated priority actions. And I would like to ask the presenter to be very brief, maximum 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes.
Chair, Your Excellencies, development partners, colleagues, thanks very much for this opportunity to briefly update you on implementation progress of your roadmap, the Borderlands Roadmap. I'm here today with PS Njenga, the Kenya's Ministry from Kenya's Ministry of Interior, together with Khadija Bare from the UK's Deres Wanang program, and we'll be updating you briefly on some of the key progress that's been made on the roadmap, and we'll also be seeking some of your guidance as well to help us move things forward. Just before I update, I'll very quickly remind you of the roadmap. It'll be very, very brief. It was approved or endorsed by Your Excellencies at the 18th Ministerial in Addis Ababa last year. You'll recall it involved extensive consultations over about beginning at the spring meetings last year. It resulted in the identification of 6 borderland development priorities: last mile connectivity in road, digital and energy, cross-border trade and mobility for borderland communities themselves, sustainable livelihoods through local economic development, resilience, strengthening cross-border social cohesion and peace building, and improving access to and quality of basic services in the borderlands. Cross-cutting themes were gender, women and youth, as well as climate change. We built on the IGED's clusters, 6 clusters prioritized. I won't go through them all. They're shown there on the screen. But also, I want to acknowledge that we agreed that there could be scope to expand the scope of the roadmap over the next few years, depending on changing conditions in the region. 5 concrete actions. 5 concrete actions for 2024, leveraging existing Horn of Africa Initiative projects and investments to address those 6 development priorities that I mentioned. We are taking here a programmatic approach to leveraging the existing portfolio. The second was assessing and developing tools for expanding government spending in the borderlands. The third was preparing policy white papers on 2 priority policy issues, including the social cohesion issues that we'll discuss today, holding launches and initiating local coordination platforms in the borderlands themselves, as well as establishing a technical facility to support implementation of the roadmap. Seems to need to be clicked twice. On the first action, leveraging the portfolio, this slide here summarizes the progress that's been made over the past few months in collaboration with the focal points and the national advisors on initiating dialogue with project implementation units and development partners on the projects and investments that are ready to support and address those development priorities that have been mentioned. And if not ready, what support they need to get ready to address the development priorities in the borderlands. The slide summarizes progress. Green identifies development priorities for which projects are mobilized and ready to to address the problem in a specific cluster. Yellow indicates those projects with clusters that have been identified, but where further technical dialogue is needed on whether or not the program can meaningfully address the development priority, and red is where we currently see gaps. As you can see, there are some important gaps. Some of the clusters are better covered than others. The borderland clusters 1, 2, 3 are particularly well clustered, but for example, borderland cluster 5, which is sometimes referred to as the Gambella cluster, there's significant gaps. And I'll refer to that shortly. In terms of the priorities themselves, connectivity, for example, is relatively well covered, but sustainable livelihoods, social cohesion, and basic services delivery less so, but it does depend a bit by cluster. One critical initiative that is being launched since the roadmap was the EU BMZ funded program on peace and resilient borderlands. It was prepared in parallel to the roadmap, and indeed the lessons of the first phase of this program was critical to informing the roadmap itself. The overall objective is to enhance effectiveness of conflict prevention and mitigation in cross-border communities. So it's directly focused on one of the development priorities for the borderlands. It's focused on 3 of the clusters, those 3 clusters that consist of Kenya, Ethiopia, South Sudan, as well as Somalia. And it's a critical program that I think we can learn a lot of lessons for, and a lot of the tools, the mechanisms that they're using can be scaled out to other clusters as we move forward. So this is, I think, a project that is fully designed and ready to support borderlands in some of the clusters. I'm now just going to quickly, and a second important initiative is the UK's FCDO program. As you'll be aware, the UK came on board as a full member shortly after the Horn of Africa initiative endorsed the roadmap, but they've been very supportive on leveraging their programs, particularly the Deres Wanang program, to support the implementation of the roadmap, particularly in the Mandera Triangle. And I'm just going to invite Khadija Rare to say a few words about this program. Khadija, do you want to
Good evening, dignitaries present. I would like to keep up the pace of my colleague Sam, but as every African child who grew up in the villages, I first wanted to be a teacher. So I might get overexcited with all the crowd that I see, thinking it's a classroom that I am addressing. Deres Wanang is a cross-border initiative that is focusing on promoting peace and stability in the cross-border region of the IGAD 3 cluster we've just had, the Mandera Triangle, all the way down to Lamu, Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, and on the other side, from Ras Kamboni in Jubaland, going up to Belet Hawa in the Mandera Triangle, and on this other side, the Ethiopia side, Dolo Ado and Dolo Bay. So the focus of Deres Wanang is strengthening socio and economic dynamics and increasing collaboration between local administration and communities. Beautiful name, isn't it, Deres Wanang? That is a Somali term that basically translates to good neighbors or good neighborliness. And in Swahili, we say, jirani mwema. Deres Wanang's funding timeline. In brief, this is British pounds 15 million, funded by the UK's Integrated Security Fund and the Dutch MFA from March 2023 to February 2026. Time is of essence for us. And coordination components, Deres Wanang is implemented by ASI, the Adam Smith International, but also on the other side where the rubber meets the road is Danish Refugee Council, which actually handles on-the-ground implementation of the initiatives or the interventions that Deres Wanang has, and Royal United Services Institute, which is our knowledge and research component, which really churns out a lot of important and really informative material from this region. That we are operating in, and we hope you'll get to interact with as many of our products as possible. So we're looking at integrated programming, combining security, development, and peace building, and strengthening national responses, conflict resolution efforts, institutions for resilience, and addressing drivers of violent extremism. Key at the heart of this for the Riswanag is homegrown solutions to local problems, addressing felt need instead of perceived boardroom needs. And that's why Khadija Barre, a child of the borderlands, all the way with connections from Afder, Wajer, going up to the Ethiopia side in Jigjiga to Kabri Dahare, with blood from all those places, is now standing in front of you and glad to see commitment from leaders and professionals and the development community to ensure that in the next 2 decades, the little boy I'm carrying here does not have to feel like he's carrying and, he has to arm himself and his community, but will feel like, he's equipped enough to fight with the rest of Kenyans to become the first Somali president of Kenya. Sindio? So the heart of the Riswanag is actually led by people like me, people from those communities, and people who actually want to drive development in this area. So the roadmap priority that we are addressing in the Riswanag, cross-border trade and mobility. We know, first and foremost, the communities that live there are interlinked. They're disconnected from the rest of the country, one, because of maybe poor roads, which we've had here. So they depend on each other. The lady who farms in Suftu, Ethiopia, sells her mangoes in Mandera, Kenya. The Wajir guy who owns hundreds of heads of camel moves all the way to Kismayu in Jubaland whenever there's drought to look for pasture. So one of the things we are focusing in is that, trade and mobility. Sustainable livelihoods, another thing, which is actually one of the key things we are addressing, the drivers of violent extremism. With sustainable livelihoods, one of the drivers of violent extremism is actually squashed. Community resilience, as I said, I am a prime example of community resilience in the Riswanag. Social cohesion. Social cohesion, if you look at every single investment that the Riswanag has, or every single knowledge product that we are producing from the Riswanag, you will be, you'll be encouraged, or you'll be happy to see that there's a lot on social inclusion that we are looking at, and the cross-cutting themes, which is women and youth. Up to 50% of our investments focus solely on gender issues and enhancing and contributing to improving gender resilience in this area. And that's why I think out of all the presenters you've seen here, I'm the only woman, right? So support for the roadmap actions. One, policy and analytical support. An example being the social cohesion white paper that is going to be presented shortly. The community perceptions monitoring data. We've just finished a community perception survey in this entire region where we really analyzed different components of this community and their perceptions of peace in this area that we hope partners will be able to also interact with. Knowledge gathering and sharing. Elimu ni ngao, sindio? Knowledge is a shield, Swahilis we say. Cross-border cluster coordination. And the Riswanag approach is, at the end of it all these solutions are led by local experts and local personnel who are at the heart of it all. Asanteni sana.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Khadija. Wow, that was, I feel like a bureaucrat now. And just to emphasize the knowledge program that Darius Nang brings, and we've had some initial discussions on leveraging that for the results, developing the results framework and tracking impacts in the borderlands looking forward, and I think that would be a huge contribution as well. So let me just quickly complete this update on the, so we can move to the social cohesion work. you'll recall that BMZ had not yet fully joined the initiative when we began and endorsed the roadmap. And therefore, we didn't have the opportunity to leverage and go through their portfolio. And so we've had an opportunity to do that now. And two programs are particularly important for a couple of reasons. One is the themes they focus on, but I think most importantly is the extent to which they work with IGAD. And we see this as a real opportunity for strengthening our engagement on the implementation of the roadmap going forward. And hope we can have further technical discussions with the teams on how to leverage these programs. Finally, just quickly on the AFDB and and also the World Bank projects, I want to say thank you very much to the Horn of Africa MDTF for providing some bridging financing for technical support. Implementing in the borderlands regions is not easy. As we've heard earlier before, we've got the update. This is the hardest of the hardest. We already heard about how difficult regional integration projects are, how complex they are. The borderlands are another level of complexity. And therefore, it's really critical that we have the enhanced implementation support that we can provide to the PIUs, to the partners to successfully implement these programs. And we're not going to be able to leverage these existing operations to address these priorities without that type of support. So we've begun that engagement with the PIUs and what support they need, and we already have some, I think, models that we can use. We have the UNDP team, the African Borderlands Center, already working, collaborating with the Groundwater Project, providing the Borderlands expertise to an existing ministry, a sector ministry, on what they need to do to deliver in the Borderlands. And that's the type of model we want to move forward with over the next 6 months, particularly once the technical support can come through with the MDTF. That's how we can really make the most of those resources. Finally, just quickly on gaps and an appeal. As you saw earlier, there's some critical spatial gaps. Some borderland clusters are much better ready to benefit from the existing portfolio of operations. Some, particularly South Sudan, Ethiopia border, for example, less ready, and more work needs to be done. There's also some programming gaps. Some of the borderland priorities are more covered than others, so we need to address those. We've only initiated the work on the financing and the government spending, but there's early signs that inadequate financing is going to cover the 20 million or so people that live in the borderland clusters. That's our estimate of the total population in the borderland clusters. And the needs are extremely high because of their vulnerability, because of their remoteness, because of their relative and absolute poverty. Institutional coordination is at the local level is particularly important. Yes, we can build a road, but yes, that road could even perhaps add some community facilities, community infrastructure, but if we don't have the institutions on the ground, the people that Khadija referred to, the local authorities, the communities, those roads are not going to be used effectively by the community, by the borderlands communities. And then peace and cohesion, particularly in some of the borderland clusters, are not at the point where the preconditions for a programmatic approach are in place. So for this reason, I really want to again emphasize the roadmap's call for a multi-sectoral borderlands program that would complement the existing operations. IDA 21, as I'm sure all of the finance ministers is coming up, we had committed in the roadmap to launch a multi-sectoral borderlands program, and I would strongly encourage you to pay close attention to how your national PBA can be leveraged, tripled with regional financing for borderland communities as you're discussing your priorities for IDA 21. Also scope to leverage further the IDA's refugee and host community cluster as well. So with that, I want to pass the mic to P.S. Negma from Kenya's Ministry of Interior. Kenya's been leading the work with the other countries on the social cohesion paper. It's preliminary work, and P.S. is kindly encouraged.
But I would like to ask you to be very brief. We have to round up, we have to finish at 8.
Good evening, Honorable Chair, Honorable Ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'll try to be very brief. Of course, after Hadija has talked, now I have a nightmare trying to match her. But essentially, here we are talking about social cohesion, which is very key. We know our countries the way they are. We know also the relationship between countries. and the conflict that we have because of lack of social cohesion, and therefore we are taking the issue of social cohesion as very important. And basically when we talk about social cohesion, we are talking about a sense of shared purpose, trust, and willingness to cooperate among members of a given group, between members of different groups, and between people and the state. And therefore we have a horizontal relationship, that is a horizontal cohesion, where we're talking about the communities among themselves, and also vertical, where we are talking about the people and the state, because those are areas that we have challenges on. And some of the challenges we are having will be social and gender-based violence, intercommunal violence, historical marginalization. Then to improve on this, we require facilitating economic development, and a lot of this is all we are talking about here. Managing local infrastructure, a lot of it, again, is our debate here. Building climate resilience, because we see conflicts which are brought about by the climate change factors. Then we have responding to humanitarian crises, especially high levels of displacement, and finally improving national security by countering violent extremism. Existing initiatives, ladies and gentlemen, they are there according to the different countries. We all come from those countries, so we are quite conversant with the same. Key global and regional lessons. Programs and policies should utilize a clear and concise concept of social cohesion. We should have a clear and critical contextual assessment of the social cohesion challenges in country and the region. And I think that's what Hadija was alluding to here, where we really have to contextualize whatever interventions that we are talking about so that the people own them, and they must be responsive, they must be people-driven. Then, of course, we need consultations with development partners. We have had presentations here and comments where, for example, the conversation that the resources could be one coming from the partner, but maybe the counter fund is not forthcoming, and therefore we get stuck. So it's very important that we get it right from the onset. Then revisions, validations, and adoption of social cohesion white paper. Then identifying additional research required, including deep dives into conflict and peace building in clusters 1 and 5. Then identification of gaps in investments, including need for multi-sectoral regional borderlands program covering social cohesion, livelihoods, basic social service, and delivery. Roadmap, So basically, that's what I wanted to present, so that we really understand when we are talking about social cohesion and its importance and relevance in this. This is what we really have in mind in this aspect. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And Chair, if I could just draw your attention to the final slide on the proposed schedule for launching the Borderlands Roadmap in the Borderlands themselves. I really hope we can bring the enthusiasm for addressing borderland challenges to those communities themselves over the next few months. And we kindly request your assistance in making that happen as a Horn of Africa country-led.
Good. Thank you very much. I would like to thank all the presenters for the overall update. Very interesting. There is WANAG initiative as well as social cohesion. All are very important. I like your voice in terms of energizing the Horn of Africa initiative. So good. There is WANAG is a Somali word implying that good neighborhood. It means, you know, cross-border issues. So it's about borderland. So with that note, I will now open the floor for discussion. We have to be very, very brief, and ministers or development partners who would like to share some thoughts. I know borderland is at the heart of Dr. Workene's leadership initiative in the region. That's what unites and binds countries together in terms of common challenges on their boundary areas. So Dr. Workene, you have the floor, and I will ask you to be very brief.
Thank you, Excellency. I know all of us are very keen on this issue. since I'm working in regional integration institution or office, that I want to take to comment on some of the issues. Excellency, thank you for your leadership. Thank you, ministers, for the leadership, specifically on this very important thing. This is a place to challenge the challenges that we are facing. Really, we appreciate the roadmap for accelerating development in the borderland of the Horn of Africa and the actions outlined to operationalize it. And I hope that we'll get an opportunity to discuss in detail about the issues that was presented by the presenters. Also, I want to thank able, very capable experts who presented for us. This is very important, and I want to thank you on behalf of IGAD. And also, Your Excellency, the roadmap recognizes the previous work of IGAD on cross-border cooperation and development. This acknowledgement also reinforces the importance of our ongoing efforts and provides a strong foundation for our future initiatives. We emphasize the critical role of partnership and the need for increased medium of long-term investments in the resilience building effort in borderlands. We also appreciate the immediate action of leveraging the existing Horn of African Initiative project portfolio to achieve these goals. Excellencies, as you know that this should be noted that some borderlands are neither benefiting from existing projects, nor are they including in the pipeline projects that I don't want to mention here. But the designing multi-sectoral regional programs and other projects to address these gaps will be very crucial for comprehensive regional development. Otherwise, we are very happy. Thank you, the Secretariat, for taking note of all the discussions and coming up with this very important outcome. Thank you, Excellency.
Thank you, Dr. Worknecht, for your leadership on the issue of the borderland. Bringing that voices to the regional organization is very important. I will now give the floor to Mr. Zaino from UNDP.
Thank you, Excellency, for this organization. Thank you also for the chance given to UNDP. UNDP welcomes this very important initiative. UNDP started earlier focusing on the borderland with specific focus of communities. We have in the borderland communities like agro-pastoralists, informal cross-border traders, specifically women, artisan miners, and several other communities who are really making their living out of the border activities. So UNDP believes in that enhancing the potential of these communities definitely can bring transformational change in terms of regional integration. They can serve as a bridge. Their communities will have a lot of potential, can transform the borderland regions into socio-economic transformation that can lead to regional integration. So in this regard, UNDP, when we say this, we are based on evidence. We have done over 30 knowledge products for the last 3 years, and we have done data. Now we have, by the way, it was a huge gap. The huge gap was knowledge and data in the borderland. We didn't have actually clear understanding of the borderland dynamics before. Now we have over 30 knowledge products that can really influence policy and programming, and at the same time, now we have digital data that we can compare the national average to that of the borderland average. So this is very, very, I think, important progress that UNDP made in terms of both knowledge and data. We have done also several catalytic programs across Africa. Of course, Horn of Africa was one of the beneficiaries of these initiatives. We have also done a lot of innovation works. The borderland communities are really very dynamic communities. I can assure you a lot of talents, hidden talents in the borderland is there. If we really properly work towards unleashing that talent, definitely there is a high opportunity to, tap this potential and enhance the human capacity in the borderland. So in this regard, we came up with a model, a development model called 4-pillar area-based portfolio approach. Everybody was talking about, social cohesion. Social cohesion is one very important pillar, which is both vertical and horizontal. Social cohesion is a critical, actually, in the borderland, because peace is a very important commodity in the borderland. The second very important aspect is enhancing production and productivity, of course, developing both value and supply chain, so that we can really create the required integration in the borderland is very, very important, especially focusing on agro-pastoralists. The third very important pillar is that promotion of small and medium enterprises, and at the same time, access to finance is very chronic in the borderland. So how can we promote small and medium enterprises through adequate access to finance is a very critical aspect for UNDP. The last one, but not least, is climate resilient infrastructure. Climate is impacting the borderland area. Resilience building without climate resilience infrastructure is very challenging. So we believe in that specifically energy, water, and other climate resilient infrastructures at a small scale are very crucial in terms of enhancing the development potential of the communities in the borderland. So we are very happy to work with all the partners. By the way, currently we are working, thanks to my brother's leadership on this. IGAD play very important leadership role, and we are working hard on especially groundwater access facility together with World Bank, the UN agencies, under the political leadership of IGAD, which is very transformational. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. My sister.
Thank you very much, Chair, and everybody around the table. Great pleasure to be here. So just reflecting on the discussion that just took place, I think this is the Horn of Africa at its best. So picking a topic, staying with it over few sessions, and reaching a point where we're ready to move towards implementation, to move towards a project idea. So thank you so much to the presenters. I think it's great to be at this stage, of course, building on the great work that IGAD has done. I heard something from Hadija that was really, compelling to me. She was talking about the importance of integrated programming. So I want to put at the table also the importance of integrated collaboration. And this is my call to my partners around the table. I think, we're coordinating a lot when it comes to projects. Can we make this one more than a coordination? Can we make this project of jointness at the hip? Because it requires all of us together, and it requires a lot of collaboration and coordination. A second ask to you, ministers, can we have the voice of the youth? Like we heard Hadiza now talk about how important is this regional initiative for the youth of the continent. Can we build that in how we think about this project, we bring it together? From the bank side, we're programming our budget for project preparation for what's coming in the next IDA cycle. I just finished this exercise before coming here, and I did put a placeholder for this project to start preparing. So I think it's a great example of, building together a program and an idea and owning it all together and spending the time to prepare it. And maybe we can have much more examples of this collaboration upstream, but also, as we heard from the presentation, downstream towards implementation. Thank you.
Thank you, Butena, and especially I would like to thank you for your leadership as an engine for regional programs for the Horn of Africa. And she is really, she deserves greater applause. And with your support and the coordination, the region will be better in terms of development outcomes. Be assured, and we will take your concern in terms of coordination, voice of the youth, as well as also program implementation, all up to down level. So that's very important. UK, may I ask you to be very brief as well?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to join others thanking the presenters. As we heard, the UK has been sharing its experience and expertise through the Deris Ranag programme with others. I'd like to say that we want to continue doing that and showing we think that programme shows what's possible, but we think there's real potential for it to be scaled up, but also that perhaps get the delivery moving. We would very much support if it was possible to have to access IDA funding for that, and for that to be done in as soon as possible. I think the other things that I would just draw attention to in terms of our experience is the importance of these borderland projects, because they programs, because they deal with such fragile areas, really having conflict sensitivity at their heart, and making that a central theme. And also, we heard about gaps in some of the programs, perhaps looking as far as possible at doing the widest possible border areas along the border, so there are no unintended consequences if just one particular area of a border is looked at. But again, just to put on record that we're very happy to continue to share our experience and expertise with this. Thank you.
Good, thank you, UK. Indeed, UK has a lot of vast knowledge and experience in the development of the lowlands, particularly in the borderlands. That involves complex challenges of development, evolution of state institutions, as well as the vulnerabilities in those parts of different countries. So with that note, may I suggest that we round up this session. I would like to thank all the presenters. I would like to know that all development partners has contributed to the roadmap, and consultation with the Horn of Africa counterpart is good. I would like also to appreciate the leadership of Dr. Workene and IGAD for this coordinated effort. I would like to appreciate the update and note with satisfaction additional analytical work which is already been undertaken. I would like to point out that delays have affected the implementation of the roadmap, in part due to immediate funding that needs to be addressed. And looking forward to comprehensive and ambitious programs supporting borderlands being funded within the coming 18 months. And the World Bank and UK has also reaffirmed that we will advance project preparation on this front, and we from the ministers, we need to coordinate this along many lines. I would like to thank also Khadija to being a very powerful voice from the lowlands. Thank you very much. And the presentation on social cohesion, on overall update was very good, and I would like to acknowledge the update. And definitely we need to move towards the implementation of the agenda, which needs greater financing and also development of our integration of projects in the borderlands. Our energy program has to be integrated with the demand of the borderland. We have highways crossing the borderland, but borderland are not benefiting from it. So we need to make sure that our energy connectivity is taking care of also the needs of the borderland. Cross-border trade, the regional connectivity, all will enhance the issue of the borderland. And also borderland areas should take enough attention on countries' own national development program. This will only complement what countries are doing in terms of inclusive and equitable development within the jurisdictions. And voices from the lowland is very important to engage with the power, with the voice on this run. So I think with that note, would like to wind up the first session, the second sessions, and now we will move into any other business. Japan wants to take a floor. I'll give to Japan. After Japan, if Canada wants to say a few words also. Netherlands. Where is Canada? Okay, Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for giving us me the floor. I'm attending on behalf of my Ambassador Shimizu. He's a special envoy from Africa who cannot come to this important meeting from all the way from Japan. And we just like to reiterate our interest to this important initiative, even though we are observers status. But I found today that we have much commonalities between this initiative and Japan's overseas assistance, especially in this Horn of Africa region. So I'd like to report to Tokyo that we are some rooms for collaboration and coordination, and then we are preparing for the 9th TICAD conference next year. So we'd like to take up several key issues which you mentioned, especially connectivity and social cohesion and resilience to our forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Japan. Looking forward to your full membership and the support for the regional programs. You are a very important development partner for all member countries in the region, and your work on infrastructure, on basic development are very important. The Netherlands.
Thank you very much, Honorable Co-Chairs and Excellencies. I will be quite brief. Very much appreciate the opportunity to participate today as an observer. It has been very informative indeed. As you know, the Netherlands firmly supports the goals of the Horn of Africa initiative to promote regional economic integration as well as peace, stability and sustainable development in the region. And as you've just seen in the inspiring presentation by Khadija, we are already doing so in that project. So we contribute to these goals in various other ways in light of our general policy to strive for a fair, efficient and inclusive global trade system and a prosperous and peaceful Horn of Africa. So a strong regional platform as this one, it really is a win-win situation for all, including for the Netherlands in the context also of our Africa strategy. And to achieve meaningful regional economic integration, it must go hand in hand indeed with political cooperation, as these are mutually reinforcing. And it's encouraging to see today that countries really come together to address, shared challenges and opportunities in their strive for inclusive economic growth. And I want to echo what others have said, that it's really encouraging also to see the transparency around the challenges that remain. And that transparency, I think, is really an important factor to achieve success in the long run. So we will assess the feasibility of a full-fledged partnership in light of the criteria for joining, but also in view of the fact that we have a new government coming in. So it's a bit too early for the Netherlands to make the same promise as Japan, but be assured that we will review it very seriously. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, the Netherlands. Looking forward to work with you. Any additional partner? Good. I will give the floor now to my sister, Mary Laure. Final.
I think we are all we will agree that we've had a very informative and useful session. The session on the portfolio, I think we've agreed, and this will be done. The Secretariat will have these individual meetings with each of the countries, because there's a wealth of information that can still be shared, especially within the optic of finding solution. And I think, Honorable Minister, we agreed that sometimes the story is a little bit more nuanced than maybe some of the slides may have shown, and we will make sure that we reflect that feedback. And of course, the second topic this evening was equally interesting, and I think I cannot agree more with you, Buthena, that this gives us a real opportunity to all come together in one big transformation program. I think we should even think of by way of program, maybe not a project, because there are so many areas and so many clusters that we can all work together. Within a program, we have the flexibility to each come in certain cluster while still minimizing or the transaction cost of implementing the whole program. So certainly very good ideas that, as usual, and I mean, I was just telling my co-chair that it's always a pleasure to attend Horn of Africa initiative. You learn a lot. There's a lot happening. Yes, there are a lot of challenges, but it's just so many ideas, so many opportunities to do things differently. So thank you, my dear co-chair.
Thank you, Madam Mary-Laure. I would like to join you in thanking our host, Professor Njuguna, for the excellent hospitality, not only for this Horn of Africa Initiative meeting, but also for the entire annual meeting of African Development Bank. And it has been a very good hospitality. We have been accorded since our arrival. On behalf of all the ministers, I would like to thank you. I would like to thank all our development partners for supporting our initiative, Horn of Africa Initiative, which is very important. Those who have joined that from the very beginning, those who have joined up later as well, we count on your sustained and strengthened continued support. I would like to exceptionally thank Butena for your leadership as an anchor for our secretariat and a major development partner as the World Bank, in fact supported by African Development Bank as well as also EU and other development partners. Without your leadership and support, the secretariat and the steering of the leadership could not have been the way it has been productive. I would like to thank the ministers who had the ownership and the leadership to steer this forward. Definitely the successive meetings as ministers, as well as the analytical support and the coordination by the secretariat, were both instrumental in building our collective intelligence toward our shared regional challenges, as well as bringing regional solutions in terms of learning, problem solving, as well as joint action in a coordinated manner for regional approach. I'm sure my sister was just sharing her thoughts that other regions of Africa, like West Africa, others, can learn more from what Horn of Africa is doing. We are doing this sustainably despite multiple challenges, despite some political challenges of issues, divergence of opinions over some issues, but the ministers and development partners stay the course in this joint exercise to address shared regional development challenges. We have covered both agenda items very well. The issue of implementation of portfolios are very important. We need to have enhanced coordination and capacity building, aligning of systems to deliver much better. In addition to giving the leadership in terms of mobilizing resources with the ministers, both Minister of Finance, those implementing institutions, we need to double our effort in terms of addressing implementation challenges. So particularly projects that are unsatisfactory, those which are not performing well, we need to move forward with this. As soon as we are back with our capitals, we need to carry on those initiatives. We need to have an in-depth technical meeting supported by the Secretariat, in-depth review and joint solution of implementation challenges. Aligning systems, coordination is very important. We have also acknowledged the role of IGAD in terms of capacity building coordination for implementation of the regional programs. We would like to thank you, Workina, for your leadership, and we also suggested jointly that we align more, you coordinate the capacity building programs for enhanced implementation of portfolios. Borderlands is a very unique and important issue. This is very important because of the evolution of state in the region. Often state institutions are very weak, infrastructure deficit is very high, the historic development deficit in the borderlands are very, very minimal. Often voices of people in the borderlands are not taken seriously as part of the issue. So inclusive national development of our national programs is very important, but focused intervention on the borderlands, both for connectivity and on human development, resilience, are very important. And we would like also to acknowledge the work and the passion of Dr. Workina in this issue in terms of borderland issues. We would like also to welcome the work by African Borderland Center of UN, enhanced coordination with these types of institutions, which is of African institution based in Nairobi, is very much important. I would like to acknowledge the voice of the youth. Khadija, your inspiring speech and presentation was very good. The issue of social cohesion, and there is Wanag, nice neighborhood is very important. So overall, I would like to say our initiatives is very resilient. It is delivering. We need to deliver more. Our partners are expanding. We are having new members. We will work towards bringing also more members into these initiatives. The most important thing is, as we expand our partners and expand our revenue, our resource mobilizations, we need to make sure that delivery of programs are taken much center stage, as well as addressing the issue of complex development challenges in the borderland has to be at the center of our approach in moving so forward. With that note, I would like to thank all ministers, development partners, our host, for the wonderful hospitality, for a very successful meetings. Our meeting was very successful. I declared the meeting is now closed. Looking forward for Secretariat and ministers to follow up what we have agreed so that we will move forward in terms of implementation in issue of borderlands, and looking forward to meet in October. I think in October we need to talk also on new agenda items as well. We are going to brief you on this one. Yeah. I think we are going to ask the Secretariat to facilitate our discussion in our next meeting in terms of innovative finance, climate finance, how we can mobilize more finances is very important. With that note, I would like to thank you, and the meeting is closed. Thank you.